Welcome one and all, and welcome to a Fantastic Monday with me, John Arola, and joining us once again, Francesca. Welcome back to the show.
Hey,
glad to have you here.
It's been 3 days.
I know it's been a while, but you're back in your rightful place.
Yes.
Like the place you belong, not like you've been put in your place or whatever. Let's be very clear. Nobody puts mommy in the corner.
No, yes.
But anyway, very glad to have you here, especially for the news we have to talk about. And you'll be joining me once again for a top 10 list.
I will. Yeah, we're gonna like a year in review. Not much happened.
What should this year be remembered for? What were the big events that 5 years from now we'll look back and say, oh, that's why that year sucked? So we'll be breaking those down a little bit. I forgot one major one and was reminded on Twitter by someone. I'll admit what that was when we do the list. But anyway, we've got a lot of news to get to today. Don't you worry, we'll have a Monday Menace. We've got a live guest who's gonna be joining us at the aftermath. We've got Elon Musk being brutally mocked to his face, and Kari Lake's attempt to still become governor. It's not gonna happen. They don't want you, but anyway, she's still trying. She's allowed to try. She'll keep trying, and a lot more besides. So in advance of all of that, please hit the like button and share the stream so that everyone knows we're live and can join us and rejoice in the news that is. And if you want to send us any comments, tweets, or super chats, Francesca and I will respond as we go. But with all that said, Francesca, are you ready to start the show?
I think so.
Oh, okay. I think we're gonna go anyway.
Let's just start it, and if I don't like it,
planned. Yeah.
If I don't like it, I can just be like, stop.
Disconnect.
Bye.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that goes. Okay, let's talk about the big local news that happened over this weekend.
Resign, Kevin.
Resign, Kevin.
You're racist. Anti-indigenous.
On this district.
Anti-black, Kevin. No, you're a racist. No, you're racist.
Wow. What are you doing?
Look at Kevin. What are you doing, Kevin? Don't touch him, Kevin.
Footage has emerged of LA City Council member Kevin De Leon in a group of protesters that are following him, following a holiday event in Lincoln Heights. And he's being yelled at by the activists, goes into his office. At some point, is very close to one of the activists, Jason Reedy, organizer with the People's City Council. And then it is difficult to tell in the footage because a lot of people are moving around. All of a sudden, there is a bit of a brawl, a little bit of wrestling. And this LA City Council member is seen bearing a protester to the ground like he just interrupted a wrestling match on Monday Night Raw or something. I mean, that's very much what it reminded me of. He's not just like stopping something from happening. He's not just pushing the guy. He's bearing him to the ground like he's trying to win the Intercontinental belt. In any event, there are statements out now from both sides. And we're gonna give you both, to be fair. Here's a statement put out by Kevin De Leon. Once we were able to push open a door and try to get out, Reedy launched a pelvic thrust followed by a headbutt to my forehead. My response in defense of myself was to push him off of me. In the ensuing struggle, Reedy struck me in the face with a closed fist, violently elbowed a female staff member, and injured a volunteer in front of horrified parents and children. The escalating political rhetoric is beyond unacceptable, now turning verbal threats into physical acts of violence. It's a dangerous pattern that must end before more serious harm or loss of life occurs. Leaders must collectively step up to curb rising hostilities towards staff and elected officials. In no way is violence a form of free speech, and acts like these have no place in politics or democracy. Okay, so that's the defense that Kevin De Leon is putting out. We also have a statement by an attorney representing Jason Reedy who says, Kevin De Leon is a disgrace. Video footage clearly shows him and his supporters initiating this assault while Mr. Reedy stands with his hands up, which I can attest to in the video, his hands are up in the air. Not only has Kevin De Leon lost all political legitimacy, his claims that he was the one attacked here simply underscores how he's lost touch with reality. Goes on to say, Kevin De Leon and his supporters assaulted Mr. Reedy for voicing criticism of Kevin De Leon at a public event, echoing the widespread demands for him to resign. De Leon's supporters initiated physical contact by shoving him, and De Leon himself grabbed Mr. Reedy. Mr. Reedy had his hands up and did not initiate physical contact with anyone. Mr. Reedy has reported the assault to LAPD. And of course, I can only, we're not showing the video, you can find the video. I have seen the video many times, including slow-mo footage. We can only go by what is there. In the footage, I do not see a pelvic thrust and I do not see a headbutt. I do not see him strike Kevin DeLeon in the face with a closed fist. That does not mean that those things did not happen. They are just not visible, apologies, in the actual tape. What is visible is them being very close and him being followed, that is true. And what is also visible is Jason Reedy being borne to the ground by an incredibly aggressive looking Kevin DeLeon. That is what is clearly visible in the tape. Francesca, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean the tape shows like a kerfuffle basically, and a squeeze. Like they were exiting whatever place they were. They're on their way out. There are protesters. They're surrounding Kevin DeLeon. What's important to remember is Kevin DeLeon this entire time is wearing a Santa hat, and I need everyone to know this because it comes off when Santa goes haywire. But he's wearing a Santa hat, he's trying to leave, and for one of the few times there aren't police officers flanking elected representatives, flanking activists, because they always are here in Los Angeles. And so Kevin, yes, is being confronted, and Jason Reedy is very close to him. He's getting in his face, if you will, right? He's completely getting in his face. Whether or not he was, pelvic thrusting, I'm not really sure about that, but he was definitely in his face. And Kevin DeLeon lost it. Instead of calmly trying to leave, saying, being the bigger person as the elected official, he just lunges and goes for it, and it is incredibly scary. He didn't throw fists. That's, I think, important. I didn't see fists thrown from Kevin.
No, I didn't either. And look, it's entirely possible that when people are very close to each other and there's a crowd, if people are jostling you, maybe his pelvis was jostled or something. I don't know. Again, it's not visible. But and then when Kevin DeLeon says that he elbowed someone, okay, maybe he did. Again, it's not on the video. Or maybe once you were throwing him through a crowd, his elbow hit someone. It's hard to tell at that point. Look, I will say overall, because my quest on a daily basis is for literally everyone to hate me. I don't want people in the faces of elected officials to the extent that you see in that video. Can I be clear about that? I'm not okay with political violence, okay? I'm also, and I'm differentiating with this, getting that close to someone's face. Yeah. Protesting, sure, hounding them, yelling at them, putting pressure on them. And credit to Jason Reedy as well as the other organizers for maintaining this pressure campaign for so long. But the test that I always have for myself is, how would I feel if someone was doing this to Ilhan Omar?
Yeah.
Would I want a right-wing protester? Would I want his face 2 inches away from Representative Omar's face? And I would not. Now, clearly, they're not the same person, but that's the again, and these are complex issues of how exactly to protest, how to have your voice be heard. I just think that at that point, that is beyond the point of what I am comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that it is. It was definitely a provocative attempt to stop him from leaving, just to get in his face. I just think it was super provocative, and I think that largely the cause is a good one. Look, Kevin DeLeon is on tape, echoing and agreeing with Nuri Martinez, a former city council member, in the most vile, racist audio we've heard from elected officials maybe ever. And it's important. He doesn't echo the degree of racism, but he's absolutely on tape. Not only it's the racism, but the sort of cavalier corruption that happens in city council. Half of those tapes, and you guys should all check out the LA Times did an annotated transcript of those tapes. Half of those tapes are them talking about former city council people who were indicted for other corruption charges. And so it's just, Kevin DeLeon is in the soup. He's in the muck, and he is desperate to hold on to his job. He does not want to go down the way Nuri Martinez did, who resigned, does not want to go down the way Gil Cedillo went down, who was ousted, by the way, by Eunices Martinez. Yay, go Eunices. So he is so desperate to hold on to his political career. And it's like, I don't know, bro, you've got a lot of dirt on you. And now activists are hounding you. So their cause is good. How it played out, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite.
Yeah, again, there's a long list of people that I would like not want to be hounded in this. Like getting that close is just, especially in the time of COVID and a terrible flu season or whatever. Like even for your own interest as the activist, you don't want to get sick. Kevin Leon could be breathing flu on your face at that point. But just no, that's too much. And by the way, maybe the tag, and this is me again. I don't know these people. Maybe the idea is to push him to lash out.
Right.
And maybe mission accomplished in that.
Sure.
Because look, Kevin De Leon can say that he was attacked. At the end of the day, though, when you're wrestling someone to the ground, whether they did something or not, and again, there's no evidence that I can see that they did, you don't look good. You're supposed to be above that. But again, like you just can't be right on them like that. Like you follow them and you can yell at them and I don't think that protesting outside their house necessarily in the way that we have seen is in any way wrong.
No.
But getting in the face like that, there's just like, I don't want a right winger pelvic thrusting Bernie or whatever. And again, there's no evidence that happened. I'm just doing hypotheticals to try to exist outside of a bias based on my political beliefs.
And if Ilhan Omar or Bernie Sanders lunged at like a Proud Boy and like choked him out, I mean, that would be kind of amazing. Like there's be part of me.
But I don't want it to have to happen.
No, of course we don't want it to happen, but we kind of are curious if Bernie's got it in him. But no, you come for Bernie, you come for everybody. Same with Ilhan Omar. But yes, agreed. It's like, and again, this is not. I didn't think that, let's say, following Kyrsten Sinema into the bathroom was crossing the line. They didn't get into her stall. They spoke to her outside of it. And they showed her this is someone who had consistently been ignoring cries from her own constituents. And I think Kevin De Leon largely also is doing that, right? And yes, he apologized for those tapes. He said it was beneath him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's got to do more than that. And honestly, I mean, I do think that it's probably a good look to walk away at this point. I don't think he will. I don't think he's going to resign.
Yeah, I wish that he would. I haven't liked pretty much any of the ways that he has addressed any of this. It's been super dismissive. And by the way, not just him being dismissive. If we can, I apologize. We might have to. Oh, actually, we don't have this, so you don't have to worry about jumping around. So Paul Cortez, an outgoing LA City Council member, said this on Friday at City Hall. So lastly, I would just say to the disruptors and protesters who have done their best to make it difficult for us to do our work in the last 2.5 years, in their own words, I yield the rest of my time and F you. Only he didn't say F. And then got cheers from the council. And then look, there were some people that walked out after De Leon came back in. It was his first time returning to the council. But yeah, the incredibly dismissive approach to people who I think rightfully are horrified by not just the policy implications of these people seeming to despise whole populations in LA, but what they heard on the tape. I think that's reasonable. And again, we can on a case by case basis evaluate, how a protest is done, the distance and everything. Also, while I said earlier, I think that you're free to be able to like yell at people. That doesn't mean that you can yell literally anything, and I'm not going to judge you. The people who were hounding AOC, the guy who calls himself a comedian, despite there being no evidence of that, who was yelling about her ass. No, you have completely lost me and hopefully any reasonable person at that point. And that is the same standard that we should apply to literally everything. So again, the video is out there. It does not appear to show what Kevin De Leon says, but again, it is difficult to know for sure. And I'm sure there will be legal stuff developing out of this.
Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts are that I am glad that these protesters are there and they're keeping this campaign going, because honestly, the other thing that those tapes showed is that council members here in Los Angeles don't care about their constituents. They view them as pawns. They view them obviously in very stringent racial categories, often redlined categories, historic categories. And they use them just to get votes when they need to bring out the Latino vote, they need to bring out the black vote, they need to bring out the white vote, which they sort of, again, compartmentalize deliberately. And they have incredible disdain for their voters. They think that they are completely can operate with impunity, and they can operate with whatever it is, private developers, contractors, get some money, go to a little toy fundraising thing for Christmas, and it's all water under the bridge. And no, man, someone's gonna hound you. Again, I don't like how close it was, and I definitely think the reaction was completely uncalled for, dude. Be the bigger guy. Just stop. Just stop. Don't just stop, and they will stop.
Yeah. And I would say finally, on the response to it, while again saying just to make sure that everyone hates me, I don't want you to be so in someone's face, falling okay. Don't try to pretend afterward that it was political violence like we're seeing all over in the same way that Paul Pelosi was attacked. Right. Okay, that's when clearly you're just trying. The fact that he's invoking that children saw it and that someone got jostled or whatever, these are all layers of defense he is trying to craft for himself, and invoking the normalization of political violence that we're seeing is another one of those things. Right. That is not what happened in this video. This was not a person breaking into his house trying to crack his knees with a hammer. Okay, let's maintain some bounds of reason on how we talk about these issues. Anyway. With that said, we do have to take our first break. When we come back, there was some crazy stuff going on this weekend outside of just LA. We'll get into it after this. Okay, there was even more nonsense happening over the weekend, which leads to our Monday Menace. Marjorie Greene has gone back and forth many times on the January 6th insurrection. She's often defensive about the way that those people are being treated in prison, and then implies that all of them are actually Antifa, who she hates. She's a bit muddled about that. What she's not muddled about, though, is what would have happened if she had been in charge. Take a look.
Then January 6th happens, and I organized the whole thing along with Steve Bannon here. And I want to tell you something, if Steve Bannon and I had organized that, we would have won. Not to mention, it would have been armed.
She's obviously very happy with herself. I mean, when is she not? The fans also seem to love the idea that she fantasizes about being in charge of Antifa super soldiers, I guess, leftist provocateurs that would be armed in this case and definitely would have won, which she doesn't define, but clearly means that they would have successfully overthrown the government. That in her mind would have been victory. Anyway, she has more to say about her theory.
See, that's the whole joke, isn't it? They say that whole thing was planned, and I'm like, are you kidding me? A bunch of conservatives, Second Amendment supporters went in the Capitol without guns, and they think that we organized that? I don't think so.
Okay, so as people in the chat are noting, not a lot of applause for that. Weird call on her part, but anyway, so in her mind, right-wing protesters always have guns. The fact that they didn't have guns means that they weren't right-wingers or something, even though she definitely thinks they're right-wingers, which is why she's trying to help them out so much in their legal troubles. So again, still confused there. But she believes that if they had brought guns, then they would have won. They would have succeeded, which would both be a good thing to her mind and make sense to say. That they would have, what, killed Congress? Killed the vice president, murdered all the Democrats, and what would the victory look like? Then Trump would declare martial law, like the military wouldn't intervene, or in your mind are this pack of hillbillies with AR-15s going to take out the military? Obviously, it's difficult to know because she's an absolute moron, Francesca. But what do you think about her Handmaid's Tale fantasizing?
I just think it's incredible what she's wearing as she's trying to pass over this like coup plot. She's just got like this like velvet black dress with a big slit in her bright blonde hair. It's very like MAGA Miss Piggy. No disrespect to Jim Henson, but that's what she's given me right now. And I think it's ironic because she and Steve Bannon did plan January 6th. Like, I don't understand why she's washing her hands of the fact that she was giving tours to the insurrectionists weeks beforehand, that Steve Bannon is on tape discussing what they're gonna do, which is declare victory no matter what. He and Roger Stone are all totally on board. They know that this is gonna happen. They know what's going down. But then it's like, oh, we're gonna actually win. Yeah, no, and finally, they were armed. They were armed.
Yeah.
There were people armed with whatever it was, like, not firearms, mace.
No, they did find a few guns in cars, by the way. But yes, there were also. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, we know they all had guns, right? Like, we know people were packing. Like, we know that from the fact that they weren't actually able to access the rally beforehand, and Donald Trump wanted to take away the mags, as he said, or any kind of security, so they wouldn't have to so they could go through. But we totally know that they were armed. That maybe they didn't, whip out their guns and start firing, but they were armed.
Yeah, 100%. Here's a possible explanation for why they didn't win by using their guns. Maybe they were rightly terrified that they would be put down. Like, if they had actually started shooting people, I mean, look, that would have been bad before they were stopped. They probably would have killed each other. They probably would have killed more Capitol Police, more than the Capitol Police they did kill and maim, and that's already a lot. Maybe they would have killed some members of Congress. It would have been devastating. And then they definitely, every single one of them would have been killed or captured. Can we be clear about that? She's an absolute moron. I know that because she poses in ads with guns and fantasizes about shooting pigs from a helicopter, whatever, people think that she's Rambo. Do you guys understand that she doesn't know a single thing about the military or how this would go down? Let's just be very clear about that. So look, the implications are irrelevant because it didn't happen. And when the next insurrection comes, I'm sure she'll be a participant, but I have a feeling Donald Trump will still be in charge. So I don't think we have to worry too much about the hypothetical she's sketching out. What we can focus on, though, is what is literally happening. She's standing on stage at a young Republicans meeting or whatever, fantasizing about how they could have won in that case. And she feels very comfortable saying that that would be a win. Very comfortable, like imagining gunning down the Capitol Police while still claiming to be, pro law enforcement or whatever. Now, the White House has put out a statement saying that this is a slap in the face to the Capitol Police and victims' families, which it definitely is. Reminder, there was a reason why the families of these cops didn't want to shake Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy's hand, especially Kevin McCarthy, since he seems ready to spend the next couple of years doing whatever Marjorie Greene wants. Maybe that's why you're getting the disrespect from the families, but it's just the latest reminder of why she's completely unacceptable to be holding office. The idea that when the Republicans take over, she's gonna get her congressional committee assignments back is absolutely sickening. We're gonna be hearing more speeches from her of this sort of thing. We are stuck with her, unfortunately, for at least a couple more years.
Yeah, haven't you learned your lesson? Like, hasn't Kevin McCarthy learned, like, from the midterms, honestly, that like, whatever, extreme MAGAism, Marjorie Taylor Greeneism, nobody wants that. And this is where I think a lot of folks differ. Like, I do believe there are gettable Republicans. I'm not gonna Nancy Pelosi Republican whisper, all the good ones come out. But I do think that going down the Marjorie Taylor Greene route is a losing strategy. And I think we've seen that. It's not to say that the next strategy isn't as insidious and dangerous, a la Ron DeSantis, but it is at least less openly calling for violence and less openly denying 2 + 2 = 4, more votes equals you win an election.
Well, we're gonna return to the election denial just a little bit. Now that we can move off of the bizarre theories about January 6th, let's move to equally bizarre, but maybe less threatening theories having to do with butt plugs, starting with this.
By the way, you can pick up a butt plug Target and CVS nowadays. I don't even know how we got here.
Came here.
Sorry, you may still be finishing your dessert. I apologize.
She doesn't know how we got here. I don't know how we got there either. I don't know. I'm not sure where you picked that up. I don't know why you felt like you needed to drop that in the middle of your speech. I don't know if you're talking to the guru again. I don't know where these thoughts are coming from. There is one theory going around about why she spontaneously was thinking about Target butt plugs, and it has to do with a recent Tucker Carlson episode. Take a look at this.
The producer for Tucker Carlson tonight happened to notice that CVS is now selling sex toys, and they appear to be a relative bargain. For example, there's a tush kush for $11.97, though the accompanying lotion that goes with it will set you back an additional $11.97. And if you've got the cash right there in the middle, the Buzzy Butt will run you $32.50. Information, just wanted you to know about New York.
But it's immoral to sell Marlboros, Trace, just so you know. Thank you for your reporting. You blow my mind every night.
It's a more, I mean, there's no secondhand effect, I don't think, of the tush kush or the butt buddy or whatever they called it. It doesn't actually lead to cancer. It can't get other people sick. So in theory, if you wanted to have a serious conversation about the ethics of these different things being sold, you could have that. Of course, he's not interested in that. Just the fact that these things might be available is objectively a bad thing. And I know that because you'll notice that Marjorie Greene didn't have to explain why this was a bad thing, why adults being able to purchase these things should be, I guess, banned. I suppose, again, the party of personal freedom and responsibility, pointing out how private enterprise needs to be stopped from selling things to adults, as if people were really desperate, they couldn't find other things to use. It's not that difficult, I don't think. But Francesca, how worried should we be?
Very worried. Most of us just use a Persian cucumber. But selling it at a Walmart, I don't call that a busy butt. I just call that the vegetable aisle, a crudité, if you will. Anyway, back to you. I am a serious reporter. Like, what is this?
Because you're a new mom, and this is supposed to horrify parents. So,
oh my God. No. I mean, the first thing that babies are into is ripping a big doo-doo. So like they're into butt stuff, immediately into butt stuff, because you're wiping it all the time. They've got crazy poos, projectile poo. There's like little things you put in their butt if they've got like gas, and you just like, it's there. See, that's the other thing. Watch those little gas relievers. If your parents, you know what I'm talking about. Watch Tucker Carlson do a whole thing like parents are putting butt plugs into their babies' butts. Yeah, because they've got gas, man. Just like you could probably use one up yours. Oh wait, it's already there. A giant Murdoch. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, this has gotten away from me in the same way the speech got away from her.
You started it.
But I started it for an important, serious, substantive reason.
No,
which is to point out that literally anything can and will be used by them, even without explanation as to why it should be important, to make you worried about something, the gay agenda. I guess gay people are winning because now like a thing is sold. Now, of course, look, if we're being realistic, anybody could use these things, but that's clearly what she and Tucker Carlson are invoking these things for. Can we all agree on that? That if this stuff is out there, that's definitely something bad, the gay agenda, and probably like, I guess kids could see it or something. Do they understand that kids can access a lot worse stuff than the packaging for a butt buddy or whatever it was called? They have access to
Buzzy Butt. Okay, please.
Buzzy Butt. Thank you. Sorry. Without that you wouldn't be able to find it. So I'm sorry. We're taking sales away from Buzzy Butt.
Use code Dragon Squad 2023.
Buzzy Dragon 2023.
Buzzy Dragon. Don't make a dragon shape butt plug. It's just I don't think that's gonna feel good.
I mean, the wings alone.
Oh, the wings, just the wings.
Yes. So look, the last thing that I'm gonna say about this, and hopefully the last thing any of us will say about this is just a reminder of who they are. Like their whole thing is, first of all, trying to target communities and organize hate campaigns and all that, but also Like, if you just want to use a buzzy butt, you should be able to use a buzzy butt. Like, can we agree on that as an advanced modern society, adult to adult? If you want to purchase a sex toy, go ahead and do it. We're not the party, or at least the side of the party, of creepy weirdo Kens and Karens who want to get involved in everything having to do with your sex life and outlaw as much of it as we can.
Yeah.
Pretending that it bothers us when God only knows how many of the people who we're talking about that actually have a problem with it. We've heard the stories of what they get up to, but they certainly want to make you feel bad about it.
No, and what's next obviously is condoms, like whatever, any kind of contraception. Like, oh my God, can you believe that they sell this? Yeah, kids can go and see that there's contraception at a Walmart. Good, that's great. But this is, again, it's like, it's starting with that, which, by the way, I throw some doubt on whether or not there's a buzzy butt at every single Walmart or Walgreens or whatever. But we can do a little experiment. We can look out for them. But like, that's the next logical step. Oh, you can't sell contraception, you can't sell birth control, you can't sell anything.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Okay, with that said, let's move on to other news. Ever since it was announced that Brittany Griner had been brought back from Russia and that a Russian arms dealer had been given over as part of that deal, the right has been freaking out about the fact that Paul Whelan, a Marine who's been there for a number of years now, was not brought back over. And there's been a lot of back and forth about whether that could have or should have been done under the previous administration. Let's see if we can catch up a little bit on all of what's been going on. First, here is John Bolton talking about this potential deal.
I really can't get into specifics, but I'll just note that Paul Whelan, who was likewise set up by the Russians back in late 2018, so when I was at the White House, is still in custody. And I'll just note the historical fact that the possibility of a boot for Whelan trade existed back then, and it wasn't made.
Okay, so this is an interesting follow-up to a bleat that was put out by Donald Trump, where he had said, I turned down a deal with Russia for a one-on-one swap of the so-called merchant of death for Paul Whelan. I wouldn't have made the deal for 100 people in exchange for someone that has killed untold hundreds of people with his arms deals. I would have gotten Paul out, however, just as I did with a record number of other hostages. The deal for Griner is crazy and bad. The taking would have happened during my administration, but if it did, I would have gotten her out fast.
Sure.
Well, the interesting thing about that is how time works. What I like to think of as the linear flow of time, because when he says I would have gotten her out, that is actually a thing that could have happened way back then. You were president for 4 years. You didn't get Paul Whelan out. What do you mean would? You did not. It didn't actually happen. Now, whether you believe John Bolton or not about a potential deal being turned down, or whether you think Trump is exaggerating or whatever, the simple fact is that he entered his presidency and left it, and Paul Whelan was not recovered. And by the way, that isn't necessarily Trump's fault. It's possible that Russia never put forward a good deal or a deal at all. That's entirely possible. Maybe it was an incredibly unfair deal. Maybe it was responsible for Trump and his administration, probably his administration, I doubt Trump even knew who this was, to not have made that deal. But to somehow claim paradoxically that you would have done something that you objectively did not do, that is now ridiculous. And to say all of that as the pretext to criticize Joe Biden for actually bringing someone back, that's even more ridiculous.
The record number of other hostages? Who? Like, what?
I don't know.
What do you?
I'm sure there were some. It was 4 years.
Sure. Maybe, fine. The people who had compromat on him, I don't know, let him out somehow. They've seen enough with the P tapes. I'm not sure who he's talking about here. It's all basically, again, for him to sort of get onto this bandwagon of hating on everything to do with Brittany Griner's release, even though the fact that we even know not just who Paul Whelan is, but who Victor Bout is, the so-called merchant of death. The fact that we know these names is thanks to Brittany Griner's case, is thanks to the work that was done to free Brittany Griner, is thanks to the fact that, okay, now, are you serious about doing this? Let's see a little bit of toughness from the Republican Party when it comes to Russia. I would love to see a little bit of, I don't know, a backbone when it comes to standing up to Russia. But no, last I checked, they were helped in 2016, and there was a whole slew of Republican senators that went over to Moscow to meet with top Russian officials. Yeah, that's all been sort of swept under the rug. We're supposed to forget about that. That never happened. You know, election meddling. I don't know. Paul Manafort sending voter rolls to the Trump campaign never happened. I don't know. I mean, documented, but never happened. So like, yeah, no, please take the lead on being strong on negotiating with Russia. Get out of here.
Yeah. I want to go to just one more video. This is Mike Pompeo responding to what you heard John Bolton saying. Let's see if they agree.
I want to talk to you about this report by John Bolton, the former colleague of yours in the Trump administration, who says that there was talk of a boot for Whelan trade under the Trump administration. You were CIA director, you were Secretary of State. Certainly you would have to know about those discussions. Is that true? And why wasn't the deal made?
Shannon, great to be with you. Thanks for having me on. I don't want to talk about the private conversations we had. Ambassador Bolton's free to say whatever he might like, but we were very focused on getting Paul Whelan out, every American back home. There was nothing in my time in service that was as joyous as returning Americans home to their family. We got 3 Americans out of North Korea. I got to fly back with them. It was remarkable. We got Pastor Brunson out, and I'm glad Brittany Griner's back home too. They were able to accomplish this.
Is John Bolton telling the truth?
I don't want to comment on our internal discussions. We were working hard on each of the cases, including Paul Whelan's case during my time in service. We were talking with the Russians at multiple levels. Our ambassador on the ground there in Russia, John Sullivan, was working with them. There were lots of discussions about what the right mechanism forward was, but the Trump administration was always very clear. We weren't going to trade bad guys for celebrities because it creates the wrong incentives for the bad guys as we go forward. It's not good for American national security. It's not good for people who are traveling across the world.
It is incredibly interesting that he is not willing to be more just honest and upfront about whether that deal happened. But it's not difficult to figure out why he isn't. The question is posed as him responding to John Bolton, but of course, he is in effect responding to a statement made by Donald Trump. Donald Trump is claiming that he turned down the deal. To turn down the deal has to exist, but it's a deal that he's refusing to admit whether it existed or not. And of course, the weird thing is that John Bolton is absolutely despised by Donald Trump. Mike Pompeo, I think, left the administration on a little bit better terms, but now he weirdly considers himself to be a potential opponent of Donald Trump in the next presidential race. So honestly, no idea whether the deal was actually put forward or not. The only thing we know, and again, it is indisputable, is that they did not succeed in bringing Paul Whelan back. And that is mainly a reminder I make not to the audience, but to the right wingers that are somehow shocked by the fact that Joe Biden has not yet successfully accomplished that which Donald Trump utterly failed on.
Right, exactly. And those who are like also arguing that like the Paul Whelan for Victor Bout would have been a better trade. And it's like, okay, well, Trump just passed on that. He's admitting that he passed on that. And Trump does this thing where he's both the worst he's the worst and best liar, right? Which is somehow the same thing, because if you lie all the time, it's like, yeah, you're a terrible liar. Like, and we can tell you're lying. And yet when you can tell he's just saying it. He's telling the truth. Bolton uses any excuse to sort of laud his own record in the Trump administration. And then you have the homie over there. I'm like, what is his name? No, Secretary of State might be.
You're talking about Mike Pompeo?
Yeah, Pompeo. Thank you.
There you go.
I got pregnancy brain. The point is, I've got post-pregnancy brain. I've got mom brain. I've got problems.
COVID brain. COVID brain.
Yes, you've got Pompeo. I mean, Pompeo is effectively admitting that, yeah, that happened. Like, we can say that this definitely happened. And yeah, Trump just didn't do it. So what was his plan? What was his master plan?
I don't know. I doubt he even really thought about Paul Whelan once while he was in office.
No.
Anyway, with that said, we need to take a break. We come back, we need to turn from Donald Trump and his potential lies to another big lying Republican, Kari Lake, suing Arizona. We'll break it down after this. Okay, everyone's like correcting me about the music. I don't know literally anything about these bands. You can't expect me to.
How does music go?
I don't. It's like,
what is a
it
tune?
Clapping? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got a lot more news to get to, and special friend of the show, Dave Leventhal, will be joining us for a little bit after the break. But for now, though, why don't we jump directly into this?
Arizona is at the tip of the spear. And we just had an election here, November 8th, which was run like they run elections in banana republics. And this is why I'm going to be contesting the election. As you saw earlier this week, some of the, I call them clowns running our circus of elections, actually certified the election. My opponent, Katie Hobbs, who should have recused herself but oversaw the election in a very shady and shoddy way, actually certified the election. And a lot of America First patriots were saying, Kari, what are you doing? Why aren't you contesting this? What's wrong? And what they don't realize is that in order to contest an election in Arizona, it has to be certified. So this sham election had to be certified for us to begin contesting it, and we will be contesting it. We're going to be filing our lawsuit on Friday, and I'll be filling you in more later on in this program about the lawsuit and what's coming up.
Yeah, first of all, I think shady and shoddy could eventually be the tagline for her autobiography. Anyway, that's Kari Lake. Most notable recently for having lost in her attempt to be the governor of Arizona. She lost because she didn't win. She got fewer votes. That's how you lose, which she did. And she refuses to accept that. Or let's be realistic again, we're not new to politics. We get what's going on. She lost. She knows that she lost, but she knows that the people she's trying to appeal to in the future, because she's not gonna be governor, and she knows that, don't care. They're deluded about it, and they want her to claim that she won, even though she definitely lost and knows that she lost. But regardless of all that, she's apparently doing a lawsuit. She tweeted this, which I think, is that supposed to stand for looking for group? I don't understand it in this context. But anyway, she's contesting it.
No, let's effing go.
Oh, is that really it? Oh, okay.
Looking for group? What does that mean?
I've played too much World of Warcraft back in the day. Anyway, okay, then just say it. Why are you trying to be tough or whatever, but you won't actually type it out? Oh, you're gonna be tough enough to overthrow democracy, but you can't say naughty words on the Twitter. As if you're gonna get in trouble. Elon Musk probably voted for you. Anyway, she goes on to tweet, if the process was illegitimate, then so are the results. Yeah, but on the other hand, if it wasn't, then neither are the results. Stay tuned, folks. Then she says, furthermore, if the process was legitimate, then so are the results. Let's find out. No, but we did find out though, because it's over. It's done. You lost and you're not governor. Was there things to be bothered by? Yeah, like for instance, some people did have to wait in some areas. Some equipment did have issues in some areas. You know where else that's happened? Everywhere, in every election, because nobody cares to actually fund these elections properly to make sure that there's enough machines to meet the demand in the right spots. People like Kari Lake have been defunding them, pulling polling places out of locations where they don't want people to be voting. You'll notice, by the way, that all of these Republicans that are like, well, it's super suspicious that there was a wait, aren't saying, okay, on the one hand, I'm going to contest the election results. On the other hand, I'm gonna advocate for legislation that puts a huge influx of new money into making sure that nobody has to wait longer than 20 minutes to vote in America. You'll notice that they're not actually dealing with the structural problems, just with how it supposedly buttresses their version of the big lie. Anyway, I'm frustrated by this. I'm frustrated by her continued presence. What do you think, Francesca?
I mean, I enjoy the like, furthermore, I might be wrong. And if I'm wrong, okay. And another thing, this could all just be me trying to seek attention. And yes, my children don't call me. But also, I might have had the election stolen from me. So Ergo, like, and also the little election window, like, please file election. Like, I feel like that's not even legit. I don't even know what that is. Like some laminated paper that says like election contest petitions filed at this window. How do we get, zoom out? That's just like that's her kitchen table straight up.
No, it's probably real, but like imagine her, like she thought she'd be governor and now she's filing her paperwork at this little window or whatever. Like that's your right, you can do it, but it is in like the way that it's set up, it's as sad as it actually is. And I like when things line up in that way. Anyway.
Honey, just take the Fox News contract and go get on with your life. I mean, ruining everyone else's, still staying in the conversation. You can still you could get out of that sort of like soft focus, like living room situation you got there, where she's been doing all of her interviews with Charlie Kirk and anyone who will ask. Really, like maybe Fox hasn't called, which is even more embarrassing.
No, they might not want her. She'll be his vice presidential nominee if it's not Marjorie Greene or whatever. And along the way, she needs to build up this myth of her being a victim or whatever. That's what all of this is about. She's not going to be governor because she lost.
I just want Nikki Haley and Kristi Noem and Kari Lake to all fight each other.
We'll try to set that up. We'll buy an island. Anyway, with that said, we got to move on to other news. So whenever we're ready, let's jump into the first video of the E-Block.
I don't want to hurt you. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for the richest man in the world.
That is a video of Elon Musk being invited on the stage for some reason to join Dave Chappelle. And that's been posted on Twitter, although it might be hard to find because some of the accounts that posted the video have had suspicious problems happen to them. It's weird. I wonder who's running things over at Twitter these days. And a lot of people are focusing on this video because while there are some people cheering Elon Musk there are a lot of boos there. And that is a perfectly reasonable thing to focus on. But I also want to just briefly touch on why the hell is this happening? Why is Dave Chappelle doing this? Why does Dave Chappelle want Elon Musk on stage with him? And I sort of get it. I can come up with a reason. It's something, a really weird idea of what free speech means because something, every comedian basically has to be freaked out about people not liking every single joke that they've ever told. I don't like it. This is just another step into the area of you used to be so funny and now you're hanging out with Elon Musk, one of the least funny people in the world. And you think that bringing him on stage is a good idea. Francesca, you're an actual comedian. What do you think about this?
I mean, I'm not selling out the stadiums yet, but look, Dave Chappelle and Elon Musk have been friends. They've been photographed together before. The introduction of the richest man in the world, probably just generally in the year 2022, coming out of a pandemic, rampant income inequality, the biggest in history. You're not gonna get cheers no matter who you are. Now add to that, being Elon effing Musk and being the saddest narcissist who also has all the money in the world and yet still is unhappy because trans people make him feel fragile. And you're definitely gonna get a lot of boos, especially in a city where you fired thousands of employees. People know folks who lost their jobs in San Francisco, and you want a warm red carpet? I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, man, you're going from place to place in your Uber Black or in your stupid Tesla, and you don't actually deal with the people. And now you're on stage, and yes, Dave Chappelle brought him up, and of course they're gonna boo you. And yes, it's just both of them are sad. It's a sad state for tech. It's a sad state for comedy. It's a sad state for just like fragile men with a lot of money.
Yeah, I know some people in the chat are like, this was Chappelle doing this to actually make Elon Musk look bad because he got booed. I'd like to believe that, but I don't believe that. Anyway, Elon Musk had to contend with what people actually think about him. So that's a fun, important, eye-opening experience for him. He's trying to resist learning a lesson, though. He tweeted, technically, it was 90% cheers and 10% boos, except during quiet periods. But still, that's a lot of boos, which is a first for me in real life. Frequent on Twitter. It's almost as if I've offended SF's unhinged leftists, but nah. That's what it is. Yes, it's just a crazy leftist of San Francisco. It's not how you would be greeted in public in most places in America, around the world these days. And for that reason, you don't have to worry about going to those. You should go. You should go to public places and you should see what people think about you. It'll probably be 90% approval. I bet that's how it'll work out. Anyway, he has torched his reputation. He is in a process of realizing that fact. And while I can't single-handedly take away his status as richest man in the world, he seems to be doing an okay job of it. And we get to just watch as he realizes what he has wrought for his own life, and that's satisfying. At least a little bit.
Also, no longer the richest man in the world.
Yes, we'll check in again with that. But anyway, we have no more time. We have more show in the aftermath. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Adarola. I'll see you soon.